Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, the time has finally arrived when we adjudicate who were the thumbs ups and thumbs downs for the week.
And I want to go first.
All right, Peter, you go first.
My most important thumbs up over the last week is George and Robert's interview yesterday. Okay, Robert Barnes. I thought it was one of the best conversations I've heard that two people deliver the public. The first 10 minutes of it, not only did I learn something, I was schooled. Okay, I tend to think that I'm a pretty well informed person, but you two really thrashed it out about the George Floyd case. It was a fascinating, eye-opening conversation you guys had. And it shows what the disinformation is being pumped into the public sphere about this trial. I mean, it was a really brilliant episode of The Gaggle, and I'm really proud of you, and I'm proud of Robert Barnes. So thumbs up to you guys.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Peter. I'm very, really appreciate those kind words. I thought it was a very good interview as well. So, thank you so much for that. All right, why don't you, since you've got the ball, why don't you go with the thumbs up, another thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Well, I think again I have all thumbs down. Biden's quote unquote infrastructure project. It's a complete scam. Okay, I mean, where are the bridges in it? Where are the roads? Where are the airports in it? Right. This is the Green New Deal through the back door. That's what this is, and it is unabashful, paying off your niche supporters. I mean, it's really just awful. It shows. You and I have, I was disappointed. You were disappointed that Trump really didn't put muscle into getting infrastructure, and bad on him. But I just thought, we can't wait much longer. We can't keep having the 60s, 80s infrastructure, okay? And we're going to miss it. And this is a huge missed opportunity. You and I think in our last time we talked, a thumbs up, thumbs down, my worry is about inflation. Well, if you spend on infrastructure in the right way, it can pay for itself, okay? If you do it the right way. And so they're not doing it the right way. When I see reparations are in there, Green New Deal stuff, I am not against a Green New Deal, okay? But I think it should be separate. And I don't think it should be something that's brought in through the back door. And it's just a complete boondoggle. It's a complete waste of money, okay? Money that it doesn't exist actually at this point.
No, I think it's a very good point. I mean, it's already $2 trillion. Something like 5% of this $2 trillion goes towards the so-called infrastructure, what we normally think of infrastructure: roads, bridges, airports, and so on. And the rest of it is all, like long-term care facilities and whatnot. And I'm not at all sure that even when we talk about this very narrow thing of roads, bridges, railways, and so on, that these people have any idea of what they're doing. So what often happens when you get infrastructure, which is a great idea, is lots of roads to nowhere, lots of bridges to nowhere, things that you don't actually need, rather because they have these people like Biden and Harris, I mean, they know nothing about building. I mean, Biden's been a professional politician all his life. All he knows is how to pay off political donors.
Just to grease the wheels.
Yeah. So, all the corporations that are panting for all this public money, it's all going to be just shoveled out in no time at all to their friends, much as Solyndra was under Obama. $2 trillion will disappear very fast. I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, but when you're paying off all of your corporate allies, it'll disappear very quickly. Now, Ocasio-Cortez already says, I think it should be 10 trillion. Well, all right, if she says it's 10 trillion, you can be sure somebody else is thinking, hey, how about making it 20 trillion? How about 30 trillion, 50 trillion? And so there's really just almost no end to this. I mean, they seem to think that we can just print money for all of our pet projects, and there are no bills, and we can just make it. I mean, all laws of economics have just been abolished.
It's just like with the coronavirus relief bill, which 9% of it went to the pandemic, and now it's even worse for the infrastructure bill. See, I am very straightforward and simple about these things. I think that you just with the COVID pandemic relief, just be laser focused on that. Just and maybe you can do these things right because you have a very specific goal. Okay. And on the infrastructure one, I'm sorry, maybe I'm a little, I'm not as technically proficient as people 20, 30 years younger than myself, but I'm sorry, I'm quite adamant, bridges, roads, okay, all these things that need to be, making sure that everyone has access to very high efficient internet. That's something that's very, very important, almost to the point of being a human right these days. Okay. It's remarkable how many parts of the country still have bad internet connection. I live in Russia. It's over the entire country. We have excellent internet here. Everyone has access to it. I've never paid for it in public. Everywhere you go, it's free. Okay. And you can't say that about the United States. So, as everything is racist to these people, the world is getting intensely competitive, intensely so. And this is another missed opportunity where, Trump should have done it 4 years ago. Biden is doing it in a very sloppy, politically induced fashion here. The door is closing. The window of opportunity is closing. The world is a competitive place and you need good infrastructure for it. So really huge disappointment.
Yeah, yeah. All right. My thumbs down is the giant corporations that are now applying their economic muscle against states that are making political, democratic decisions that are not to their liking. I mean, if Karl Marx were around today, he's saying, yeah, this is kind of pretty much what I would have expected, which is democratic legislatures mean very little. The people who have the real power are the giant capital. And when democratic legislatures make decisions that giant capital does not like, then giant capital uses its muscle to bring them to heel. So far we've had muscle applied to Georgia. We have the first of all, well, it was so far MLB, the Major League Baseball, has said that it's pulling out its All-Stars game from Atlanta. Obama has already given his 2 thumbs up for that. We've had the President of the United States urging a boycott of Georgia, which is kind of unheard of for a US president urging a boycott of one of the states of the union. And now all of the corporations have weighed in on this Georgia legislation, a perfectly reasonable piece of legislation. I mean, the hysteria is completely beside the point.
Much better legislation than in Delaware.
Yeah, exactly. So far, and it's clear that they are going to really put the squeeze on Georgia, because they don't just simply make statements because they feel like making statements. I mean, it's obviously they're gonna try and hit Georgia as hard as they can, and are issuing a warning against Florida, Texas, Arizona, that we're coming after you if you adopt legislation we don't like. It's quite chilling, and it's even more chilling the fact that liberals, quote liberals, unquote, are perfectly happy with this. I mean, apparently, remember all those years we heard about we need election reform because powerful interests are affecting election results. Here, powerful economic interests are overturning legislative decisions, and liberals are quite happy with it. Great, more of it, please.
Yeah, they want to make Georgia howl, just like during the Civil War. Okay, it's really interesting, George. What about all of the people that make a living around baseball, the all-star game, the people that sell the hot dogs, and the taxi drivers, the gig workers? That's a big deal for them. When you're hosting an event like that, the community, the entire city benefits from it. And so how does it hurt Coca-Cola and Delta? Oh, they just beat their chest in public and send out a couple of tweets. We're done. The liberals used to care about working people. All of these boycotts hurt Working people. Do you think that the shareholders, of these companies, not right now, however, don't be surprised is that people will start saying, okay, fine, I'm going to start boycotting you, okay?
Right.
Because you need us. You need us. We're the consumers. You need us.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
so
I absolutely think that's what people should do. I think that
I do too.
with Coca-Cola, you say, look, I mean, that's it. I'm going to just boycott Coca-Cola. I mean, it's a pretty crappy product anyway. But yeah, I think people should boycott now Coca-Cola. They should try to avoid Delta Airlines. I mean, Delta Airlines, they insist that you have a photo ID. They're not going to let you on a Delta flight without a photo ID. And here they are sanctimoniously condemning Georgia for insisting on a photo ID to vote.
I mean, poll after poll, even the majority of Black Americans think you should have an ID to vote.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, Pelosi and Schumer and all these people, once they get into it, they're like my dachshunds. Their jaws grab onto a bone and they won't let it go. And this is toxic. Okay, you can't. I mean, Joe Biden, either he's just completely senile or he's being fed bad intel, but saying, the time that you can vote and all, it's all wrong. I mean, did any of these commentators read the legislation? No, it's all there.
All there. Yeah. That's exactly it. But,
water.
Give me water. I'm dying. I'm parched. No, that's right. But look, Biden's always been economical with the truth. I mean, we think of his whole career. I mean, how many times did he repeat during the election that he got into this election because Trump said that there were good people on both sides, were fascists and anti-fascists? Trump never said it, and no matter how many times people actually pointed to the transcript. Here's the video of what Trump actually said. Biden continued to repeat this nonsense. So, Biden, and truth are often very distant relatives.
Yeah, and what this is doing is it is this horribly dividing the people over and over again. I mean, they just do it with gusto, don't they? See, this is what happens when you have a ideologically possessed mindset. Is that even when you say, no, if the legislation, if you read it, this is true, you're saying something differently, they will ignore you. What happened in Charlottesville, Trump didn't say that, but, you show the tape to them. Right. And, but it's still, they will not, they do not have the capacity because they're not using rational thinking. They're ideologically possessed. And when you're ideologically possessed, you just can't believe, don't believe your lying eyes.
That's right. Just keep repeating it. And, you think sooner or later, people will give up. It's like a child, you can just keep, banging your spoon on the table and sooner or later you'll get your way. So it's like sooner or later people say, all right, we give up. Yeah, you're right. Trump did say that. You're right. Russia did interfere in the election. And that's kind of what they're counting on.
Yeah. And basically we have a politics that's completely devoid of facts. Okay. Right. All righty. My next thumbs down, Matt Gaetz, and not just Matt Gaetz, okay, but this whole story is something that's very, very depressing. Now, I'm not coming out as a public defender of Matt Gaetz, considering the alleged allegations right now. I'm staying on the sidelines until we learn more. It's just too weird. Okay, this whole story is simply too weird. However, I'll tell you why the Matt Gaetz story is a thumbs down is that it looks very likely at this point, from what we know, another politicized prosecution, okay? And what's interesting to me is that it really, if we can kind of divorce Matt Gaetz from the Matt Gaetz story, you can do it in the sense that Matt Gaetz is positioned himself to be the leader or a leader of the populist movement, okay? And that's, obviously his association with Donald Trump and his defense of Donald Trump. But I would argue it's separate than that. What they want to do is they want to nip in the bud as early as possible and as harshly as possible anyone that could be considered a leader of a populist movement. Everyone would agree, with the exception of the interview on Tucker. Matt Gaetz is an amazing communicator. He has the ability to connect with people that are interested in his ideas. Okay, if you're not interested in his ideas, he looks like a demagogue. Okay, fine. But people that are interested in listening to him, they like him. He's attractive. He was turning into a national politician by going up against Liz Cheney. He went all the way to Wyoming. So he definitely on the national stage. And of course, I guess he has an office at Fox because he's on all of the time. Okay. So it seems to me that irrespective of what the allegations are, because this is such a weird story. Where's the 17-year-old girl? Levinson is thrown into the mix, and you have present and former DOJ, extortion, $25 million, wires on fathers. It's just too weird to make any sense of it here. But that it is not weird is that we see that the highest levels of the justice system seems to be very interested in the life of one individual. When you go after a member of Congress, that's something that you're very, very careful about, okay? Very careful about it, because we do have separations of powers. There has to be a respect here. Oh, Bill Barr looks like he was in on this too, okay? Wow, this guy, the more we learn about him in his wake, wow, look at all of the debris.
Yeah, no, excellent points. And really, when we're looking at it, that this 17-year-old young woman that we don't know who she is, we haven't heard anything about, and this was what triggered a DOJ investigation. Well, 17 is, in many states of the country, it's above the age of consent. In almost all of Europe, it's above the age of consent. So, this really, this isn't pedophilia. This isn't child prostitution a la Jeffrey Epstein. So this was enough to trigger a DOJ investigation, as you say, to a prominent congressman. That's quite something. And then the fact that they're going around leaking information about an investigation. An investigation is just nothing. I mean, it's not even an indictment, let alone a conviction. But they're leaking to their friends, ex-DOJ people, about this investigation. That is truly creepy.
George, I mean, I don't know the answer to this question, and maybe you don't either, but did the DOJ get involved in Kennedy and Chappaquiddick? That was a local police affair, wasn't it?
I don't remember the DOJ getting involved.
I don't either.
Yeah.
And a girl died.
The girl died. Yeah. No, I think it was all handled by the local people. Yeah. And he was convicted in the state court, so everything is the DOJ never got involved in that.
So it's a very bad sign of the times here. Again, I want to repeat here, I'm not coming out as a public defender of Matt Gaetz because I'm a facts guy. I want to see everything before I can draw any kind of conclusions. But obviously, it always leaks against populists and conservatives. Isn't it really kind of odd?
Absolutely, and that's what now gets me. It's a segue into one of my thumbs down, which is the Hunter Biden. Now Hunter Biden's got this new book out, and he went on an interview on CBS, and he was asked about the laptop, and he said, "Well, maybe I had a laptop, maybe I didn't, maybe I lost the laptop, maybe I didn't, maybe the Russians were involved, maybe they weren't. Maybe it was hacked, maybe it wasn't. I mean." And this is from the son of the president, and the CBS reporter, lets that go. I mean, you think about, imagine this was Donald Trump Jr. saying that. Well, maybe I did it, maybe I didn't, maybe I was set up, maybe I wasn't. I mean, it's a complete nonsense. And again, this is a much more serious business than anything that Matt Gaetz is accused of.
Okay, I only saw what you just cited. I only saw his answer to the question here. Was there a question about Bobulinski in that interview?
I don't think so. No, I don't. I think there was a lot of question about his, his past drug habits, which is a nice safe territory. And then you say, "Oh, poor guy. He overcome addiction." But no one cares about that. What we want to know is about what was on the laptop. And everything that we all that's coming out from the laptop, leave aside the various doings that were clearly recorded, much more serious sexual indiscretions than anything Matt Gaetz is accused of. And then his connection with China, his use of his family's connections to make a lot of money from China. I mean, all these are serious issues, and he just simply is allowed to walk. Not to mention also,
Well, I mean,
we learned about that he lied on this application form for a gun. Again, serious federal offense. No questions about that.
Yeah, well, we do have documents that have been released into the public referencing quite possibly his father is the big guy. So did CBS News ask him,
No.
who's the big guy in
Right.
this? Okay. Right. See, this is why people don't trust the media anymore. I mean, okay. And you know what, CBS News, well, what you can do, you can say, according to the New York Post, right. They're the one that sourced this, okay? We didn't source it because we don't care. Okay, we're not going to do the work as journalists don't do anymore. Okay, but I mean, I could have asked a lot of, according to the public record, Hunter.
Right.
How do you respond to these things?
That's it. Yeah.
You don't want to see your dirty pictures on your laptop. I don't care about that. Okay, right. I don't care. Okay, but are there national security issues at stake? Is your family entangled in business relationships before or at present that could compromise American foreign policy and security? I mean, these are all legitimate questions to ask. I don't care about your drug abuse. Did you kick it? Good. We can move on.
Right. That's exactly right. So again, we go back to Bill Barr, who managed to keep quiet about all this. So this was December 2019, I think, when the FBI got their hands on the laptop. December 2019, throughout the impeachment, throughout the election, everything, Bill Barr managed to keep his mouth shut. But when it comes to we were just talking about Matt Gaetz, suddenly, whoa, it's all over in the New York Times. An investigation that has an affair with a 17-year-old young woman. I mean, that's a serious business. So yeah, I mean, there's something very, very creepy about this media DOJ nexus, which of course was also at the heart of Russiagate.
All right, my next thumbs down: lessons not learned. Of course, I'm thinking about Ukraine right now, and it looks like to me Victoria Nuland and Anthony Blinken and others are picking up where they left off during their time in the Obama administration. Jake Sullivan is the third one. This is just really insane here. I mean, coordinating with NATO and possibly have NATO troops inside of Ukraine for exercises. George, we know history well enough, and so do our viewers. I mean, August 1914 should be just, indelibly stamped on our minds, okay? Because there are a lot of hotheads out there, okay? And there's so many different dangerous scenarios here. So the way you want to de-escalate is put more troops and bring more arms to the table. That's how you want to de-escalate.
Right. Yeah.
Okay? Ukraine is a mess. Okay, and it's been in a mess since its independence, and even doubly so since the illegal transfer of power in 2014. Okay, don't you think, Nuland, okay, and Blinken, Sullivan, don't you think you've helped Ukraine enough?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, so we have this remarkable phenomenon of all the top leaders of the US government getting in touch with Ukraine, not in order to calm things down, and not in order to tell them, hey, look, the Russians, they look like they mean business. Just don't do anything provocative. Just, keep your head down. We aren't going to go to war on your behalf. Instead, they're all saying, that we're right behind you. We're fully supporting your Euro-Atlantic aspirations. We support your sovereignty and territorial integrity. Everything in order to egg on Ukraine to suggest that America is right behind it. And that's a very serious business, because one thinks that the American side won't get involved in any kind of fighting. But you never know that given the kind of instability, the lack of leadership at the top, you can't always rely on, oh, well, at the same time, cooler heads will prevail, sensible people will take charge, much as they did during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, but
basically, you don't want to, when you have a crisis like this, you want to say, everybody calm down. Let's de-escalate.
Where's the Jack Kennedy in this one? Where in the administration is the Jack Kennedy?
Right.
They said, no, I want other options. I'm not going to go down in history in launching missiles to start the Third World War. I'm not going to be remembered that way. I mean, I'm glad that he was worried about his place in history. It might have saved the world, probably did. Right. Okay. But there's nobody in the administration. Who's running the administration? Who's running for him? Who's making these decisions?
Right. Yeah, that's right. It is kind of interesting. I mean, it's, I don't know whether it's exactly a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I don't know whether you saw this photograph that was issued of the Biden cabinet. They all had their social distance and, it's a cabinet that looks like America. But what was striking about it when you looked at it is that at the head of it, of this pyramid was Kamala Harris. And when you look at the position, the seating positions, she is the head of the pyramid. Now, this was arranged very carefully. I mean, this was a very carefully staged opportunity, and therefore they put her at the head. Now, when you have something like this, and there's a major international crisis going on in Ukraine, you really want to know, is she the one? Is she the one who's going to be calling the shots? Somebody who has the real questions of her stability, intelligence, knowledge, whatever. She's going to be calling the shots.
Loyalty? Who do you have loyalty to? Yeah. You know what? I think that's a good observation. I had another thought looking at that picture. Separate centers of power. Right. Like, are they connected?
Right.
Okay. Or maybe they're just disconnected. And do they all know what decisions the other ones are making?
Right.
Is there any check on these people?
Right. Yeah. That's right. And so there they are, all of them. So we have Biden making phone calls, we have Blinken making phone calls, we have Lloyd Austin making phone calls, then we have the defense attaches meeting with the Ukraine defense minister. That's a big, heavy duty American involvement in Ukraine. That's a serious business. I mean, particularly when the Russians are sounding very serious. I mean, if you listen to the noises that are coming from, Putin said if they launch an offensive, it will lead to the destruction of Ukraine. I mean,
Lavrov said that.
Lavrov was repeating Putin. He was quoting Putin when he said that. But that's a serious business. These people don't issue empty threats. I mean, they're giving a clear warning to the Americans. Don't try this.
Yeah, don't you get the impression that the Russian side is saying, knock, knock. Do you remember August 2008? You remember Saakashvili? Saakashvili can't even go back to his own country because he's wanted. Right. He's wanted for corruption and other issues here. Yes. So, have you learned the lesson from 2008? Apparently not. Okay. And we've talked about this earlier. This guarantee, what is the value of this guarantee? Okay. Are you going to, how fast will you escalate? Right. To protect Ukraine's borders that you compromised by supporting the coup? Okay, I mean, what's your next act?
Right. Well, again, it's a very interesting because, of course, with Saakashvili as well, they kind of gave him the green light to launch his offensive. I mean, he did it a few days after Condoleezza Rice's visit to Tbilisi. So, he launched, again. And of course, the most famous example, Hungary in '56, when the Hungarians thought that America or the United Nations or whoever was going to come in on their behalf. America always is in this business of let's you and him fight.
Gillespie with Saddam.
Gillespie with Saddam, exactly. And so, I mean, but as I say, maybe they're just simply, yeah, we're going to fight to the last Ukrainian, but there may be some idiots there who want to go beyond it. I mean, they're so obsessed with Russia.
They got their Vindmans. They got their Vindmans.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, given the pathological hatred they now hold towards Russia, I mean, far greater than what America had towards the Soviet Union in early 1950s, in the 1960s, even under Reagan, nothing like this. So that's why it's a kind of an explosive situation.
But see, everyone has to understand, and George and I have been pounding away at this, but after the election, up to the inauguration and since, we have been warning how Russiagate, the hoax, has bled into policy. And George is absolutely right. This pathological hatred, pathologies blind you to real sensory intake, okay? And this is what's happening right now. Some of them that want to maybe actually act out on this pathology, okay? And given what's going on, we shouldn't be surprised if it does happen. I'm actually very pessimistic about what's going on right now, because it looks like to me that Zelensky he's looking for an outside savior, okay? And will the U.S. do it? Will it not do it? But there's so many. We could do, charts, yes or no, and go from all the decision making. It's very, very complex. It can get very, very messy. And I just don't have the confidence of the people running the U.S. foreign policy establishment. They are B-listers, and they have track records of utter, complete failure, and they're in charge.
Right. No, that's exactly right. They get everything wrong, and they get themselves into a position where, okay, they did Iraq, got that completely wrong, but basically Iraq is no contest for the United States. Yeah, huge casualties, total destruction of Iraq, absolute, refugee crisis in Europe, but America's still all right. When you mess around with Russia, America isn't going to be all right. So this is here it gets really dangerous. Well, you can't afford any margin of error.
Saddam. This will be the mother of all battles. Okay, I mean, okay, that was Saddam. Sure. But when the president of the Russian Federation says that if you invade the eastern part of Ukraine, what we call here the Donbass, it could end. They could end with the destruction of the Ukrainian state. I think those are different levels of importance.
That's exactly right. I mean, America's very good at taking on very small, very weak countries and thumping them. I mean, America's been very good at doing that throughout its history, and particularly, during the Cold War and even the post-Cold War. Here, you're doing something very different. For the first time, you're actually up against someone your own size. So you've got to be really very, very careful not to start getting involved in fighting an adversary like that. And that's why, we're both kind of worried that these people have the ballast to be able to step back and act intelligently, because I don't think either of us is very sure that they will.
Yeah, they don't have a Stephen Cohen.
Right.
You give them counsel. God bless his soul.
Right. So then my next thumbs down is Facebook. As our viewers know, Laura Trump, President Trump's daughter-in-law, interviewed her father-in-law and posted it on her Instagram account, upon which Facebook said this is coming down because Donald Trump is banned on Facebook. Not only is his account banned, but his voice is banned. And Facebook took it down and said that any further nonsense like this, and you too will be punished, they said to Laura Trump. So what is kind of interesting about all this is that this is an attempt really to wipe people from history. This is the former president. He was a president just a few months ago, and then now, essentially Facebook and presumably Twitter as well, will just seek to banish all historical references to the presidency of Trump. So all this time, the West was sort of very gleeful and gloating. Ah ha ha ha! You remember the Soviet times when it removed airbrush Trotsky and Buchanan from the photo. Ha ha ha! We never do things like that. Yeah, you bloody well do things like that. That's what the West has become now. No more laughing about the Soviet airbrushing.
Yep. And remarkably enough, they do want to wipe away, disappear entire presidency, a former president, and the people around him. And given our technological environment right now, it is very plausible. It will just be a memory. Right. And because I mean, what do you think they'll do? Anyone that wants to fund the Trump library, I mean, they'll be sanctioned. Okay, they'll be sanctioned. Okay, right. Sanctioning will come home. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think they will be sanctioned. Yeah. Yeah. And they're going to try and probably make it even quite difficult to do. I mean, I imagine banks will try and make it as difficult as possible to fund a
building permit.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Or this transaction is illegal. Yeah. All of that. Or any crowdfunding attempt, immediately ban the crowdfunding. No, I think if Trump does run in 2024, he has got to realize that probably most of the media will adopt as a policy to ignore him completely. No coverage at all. Whatever he does, they will just give no coverage, zero coverage. Which again, very chilling. I mean, you have a kind of a democratic election, and you're refusing to cover the main candidate of the opposition.
We had a preamble of this. I think it was in 2012 during the Republican primary when Ron Paul came in second in Iowa, right. And the mainstream media was bending itself into a pretzel about who came in first place, who came in third place. Well, this third place, this looks potentially for New Hampshire. Oh, and the front runner, and they not one word. Ron Paul didn't exist, and then Ron Paul actually won the primary when they finished the voting. Yeah. Nobody remembers that now. Right. But I mean, I can remember distinctly who won the first, second, first, third, and fourth, and fifth, but they wouldn't talk about the second person. They already know how to do it. Yeah,
no, that's a very good point. Yeah, I've forgotten about the 2012 primaries. Yeah, no, I think that's where it's heading. Twitter and Facebook, Google are blazing a trail, and the mainstream media will do this. And see whether they can just do this. You can rig an election simply by ignoring completely. And then again, and so the United States lectures other countries. This is the kind of thing they say. Well, Venezuela. You can't get onto mainstream. You're the opposition, and you can't get onto the mainstream media because the government controls it and bans this opposition leader. Yeah, that's pretty much the way it is in the United States. It's not the government. It's just the powerful corporations aligned with government.
And doing the bidding of the ruling elite. I mean, we had this happen in the last couple of months that the President Zelensky of Ukraine banned 3 Russian language television stations. Okay, just the thing is that the way they oppose their opposition is to tell the public there is no opposition.
Right, exactly. But again, it's a remarkable thing that Americans have become, and the West generally, are so lacking in self-awareness that they not even realize that you are exactly the kind of regime that you spend all your time denouncing and writing human rights reports about. And you're exactly the same. Yeah, the opposition simply is banned from television. That's it. I mean,
going back to your conversation with Robert Barnes, the media has already decided the outcome, okay? And the entire strategy of the prosecution is all emotion, has nothing to do with evidence whatsoever. Right. And this is what they do all the time. They want to ignore reality, what is here and now that we can understand, and they just say no. That reality is an illusion, and we will never let you see it. And what you're thinking, what your experience doesn't exist. But they just gaslight you.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. Yeah. Good. You have any more?
That's it for me.
See. I've got a couple of I have a surprising thumbs up. One thumbs up, which kind of follows up on what we've just been talking about. A Russian court has fined Twitter again and again and again. It keeps hammering Twitter because Twitter is refusing to take down posts that Russia is, the court says, is in violation of Russian laws. They say that these are these are posts involving child pornography. These are posts involving, people egging children to commit suicide. I don't know if they're true or not, but nonetheless, the court just keeps hitting Twitter and just fining and fining and fining. And I'm finding this very satisfying because it's very important that governments throughout the world make clear to Twitter that you are not superior to us. You have to comply with our laws. We don't have to comply with your nostrums. You comply with our laws. And if you don't comply with our laws, we will fine you. And then if you still refuse to comply with our laws, we will just simply ban you. And I think that's a very, very important that everybody gets with the program, that's how you have to treat Twitter. You can't allow these giant corporations to say, we are more important than the governments, and the governments have to comply with our demands.
It's really interesting considering the very strained relationship the European Union and Russia have right now, but both are going down the same path and dealing with these tech giants. Right. The European Union is making it very, very difficult for these companies. They're relentlessly going after them, which is really good. I hate to say this, but if we don't fight them over there, we're going to have to fight them here. You know what I mean? I mean, you got to make a stand. You got to make a stand.
But you really do. You really do. I mean, you can't have, and this was going back to what we were talking about earlier. We can't have corporations deciding that the law doesn't really apply to them. Democratic decisions don't apply to them. They are more powerful than voters. No, we can absolutely, governments need to assert that, no, you have to comply with our laws. And if you don't, then we're going to punish you and eventually ban you. So I think it's very important, and all governments should start moving there.
Yep, and I hope the public punishes Delta Airlines, and it punishes Dell and Coca-Cola. I hope they punish them, okay? Yes. Because they exist because we exist, not the other way around.
That's exactly, yeah, that's exactly it. So do I have anything else? Well, one other thumbs down. This will be my last one, and that's the media coverage of the recent attack on Capitol Hill. There seemed to be, there was a lot of excitement initially. It seemed like, oh, great, the white nationalists, white supremacists, Trump supporting, MAGA hat wearing guys are back, launching their attack on Capitol Hill. And then, they said, they said, oh, this is an Indiana guy. So that's, oh, Indiana, that's a red state. But then they said, yeah, he appears to be a member of the Nation of Islam and a follower of Louis Farrakhan. But then the media said, terrorism is not suspected. Now, he's a member of the Nation of Islam. He launches this attack on the Capitol building. And they say terrorism is not suspected. It looks pretty terrorist to me. So, but grannies wandering around Capitol Hill taking selfies, those are terrorists. A guy who's a follower of Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. No terrorism here. Nothing to see here, folks. Bye.
Isn't it interesting? Is that after 9/11, all Arabs were terrorists? Remember that? And now it's speed up to the present. All white people are terrorists. That's okay, yeah. Even if a non-white person commits an act of terror, they're not a terrorist.
That's right.
Isn't it amazing how things can change so fast, right, and come out in a different way?
Yep.
It's just amazing. The way they tied themselves up into a pretzel on that one, it was just hilarious because, and it's a really pathetic story. Someone died. Okay, someone was killed.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. But the story has been buried. Boom, gone. Much like the Colorado shooting. Boom, gone.
Or the story of the Asian woman in New York that was beaten up, stomped on on a New York City sidewalk. Okay, right. I think only Fox carried that.
And that was a hate crime. because as the guy was stomping her, he was making all sorts of racist and anti-Asian, insults that he was hurling at her as he was stomping
Yeah,
her.
and he was on parole.
Classic hate crime.
And he was on parole for killing his mother.
Not a good thing to do, killing your mother. That's that's something that ancient tragedians used to write about, things like that.
Yeah, there's that really special, uber special place in hell for that. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, the point is that, if it doesn't fit their narrative, they're just not interested. They're not interested in the human suffering. How about that Asian woman? What about her suffering? What about the widow and mother of the police officer that was killed? Don't they have any sympathy? Don't they have any interest in following up on that story? No, it's of no value to them, and they move on. Okay. And they look for what was his name, Sandman, in the Covington kids.
Exactly.
Okay. I don't know how much money he got out of him, but I hope it was a pretty penny.
That's right. And incidentally, that the one, the Sandman, he got a lot of money from the media. He didn't get any money from Elizabeth Warren, because Elizabeth Warren, he sued her. She went to court and insisted on immunity. She enjoys immunity, which means that she has immunity to go around smearing people and slandering them and making all sorts of assertions. I'd like immunity, please. And she got immunity, so she can do whatever she likes.
Oh, that's really. I mean, did she smear him on the floor of the Senate?
No, it was a tweet. It was a tweet. That was.
Well, that's really broadening the immunity there.
It really is.
Because traditionally, okay, it's what you say in the well of the Senate and in the well of the House. Okay, that's where you get your immunity. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they've expanded it. And if they didn't, then they have expanded it. Okay,
it has expanded. I mean, it's completely ridiculous because it's not in any way in part of your official capacity as a senator, as you say, speaking in the well of the Senate. No, she just sort of tweeted this out. But apparently, anything that any senator says at any time, immunity.
Okay, I'm going to start calling you doctor. I mean, I'm sorry, senator, because you're on the same level as Pocahontas. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Senator Pocahontas. Yes. All right, Peter. I think that's us done for this week. So that was the week that was. We will be back tomorrow, and we are on Rumble. And remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.